Looking back and moving forward, Brooklyn Park Mayor Jeff Lundy reflects on his time in city office. Lundy says a lot has changed since the time he won a special election in 2011 to become Brooklyn Park Mayor. Sonia Goins had a chance to visit with the mayor who was leaving that post to fill an elected county board seat.
Jeff Lundy was elected to the Brooklyn Park mayor's seat 10 years ago in a special election following the death of former mayor Steve Lampe. He won 2 terms since then and is now winding down his final days in his leadership role. He prides himself on always being accessible to residents.
They could text me, they could call me, they could Facebook message me.
When he looks back on his tenure, Lundy says he's most proud of how the city has developed over time.
There was a lot of issues about community pride and people feeling like, they were embarrassed living in Brooklyn Park.
Lundy took office at the tail end of the housing crisis and says it was one of the most challenging issues he's faced as mayor.
We were hardest hit of any city in Minnesota proportionally, the foreclosure crisis.
The top elected official says the city's now different. Brooklyn Park is growing. Major companies have moved their headquarters to the city, and more people choose to call Brooklyn Park home.
People are proud to live in Brooklyn Park. There's businesses coming there, families living here, and so I think there's a different sense of who we are.
Police reform was also a top priority for Mayor Lundy, especially this summer after George Floyd died in the custody of Minneapolis police. Several community engagement events were held, but Lundy admits they weren't as successful as he would have liked.
We had lots of people come and get engaged, except for African American. We had immigrant communities, we had white, but we didn't get the key demographic.
Brooklyn Park recently hired the Wilder Research Group to study the police department and how the city could better improve relationships between law enforcement and residents of color. Lundy says it's important to address this issue with the city's large, diverse population.
20% of our city is foreign-born.
Lundy says although he will still represent Brooklyn Park residents in his new role as Hennepin County Commissioner for District 1, he will miss that day-to-day contact.
The county government is so much bigger and some of that stuff, you're just not engaged in people's lives directly because it's so much indirect.
Lundy will be sworn in as Hennepin County Commissioner in January. Sonia Goins, CCX News.
Students and families have had to adapt to distance learning, which has brought with it all sorts of new challenges. For kids, it's perhaps more stressful than they're letting on. And that's why Brooklyn Center Elementary School started a so-called virtual calming room. The virtual space helps students explore coping strategies to manage emotions. The Calming Room website has several coping strategies, including breathing, journaling, and movement. For example, if a student wants some mindfulness and relaxation, all they'll have to do is click on the Mindful tab and go through the videos on the site.
It's always needed, right? Like just as beings, we're all working daily to try to just like navigate life, which includes like mind-body connection of mind and body, just be settled in who we are, each moment as little people, especially true. And then during this time, where life is just really turned upside down for all of us. And little people, they really don't understand what's going on. They just know that everything is very different.
De Leon says prior to COVID, students would meet with social workers to do similar coping activities. But because there's no longer in-person meetings, the hope is that the virtual calming room brings back a little normalcy to students. De Leon also mentioned that Brooklyn Center Elementary actually adopted the virtual calming room from the Osseo School District. The COVID-19 pandemic has taken a toll on restaurants. Some of them have either temporarily closed or closed for good. But imagine opening one in the middle of the pandemic. That's the case with the Birdhouse in Robbinsdale. Here's Delane Cleveland in today's edition of Takeout Tuesday.
There you go.
For nearly 5 months, Robbinsdale's newest restaurant, the Birdhouse, has satisfied the hunger of people craving American comfort food.
French fries fly out the door, French fries and tots.
Sweet potato fries, regular fries, that's what I like.
Fries are always a classic, but you also can't go wrong with one of the Birdhouse burgers.
We had it last week and my dad was just raving over the burger.
Okay.
fun.
For that, you can thank owner Nell Curry Dykehouse.
My thing was always I like burgers, so I just always really wanted to make sure we had some good burgers on the menu. I would say we sell a lot of Juicy Lucy's.
Since opening August 3rd, the family-owned restaurant along West Broadway has become a fan favorite of people in the neighborhood.
Just trying to support the local shops in Robbinsdale. We've been hearing a lot on social media about Birdhouse and wanted to come in and give them as much money as we can.
It's a sentiment that means a lot to the owners of the Birdhouse, who've learned that even with delicious offerings on the menu, opening a restaurant in the middle of a pandemic has been challenging.
Because we've never been able to operate full capacity to date, that has been really hard for us to try to cover the big construction costs that we put into it and get on our feet.
And because the Birdhouse wasn't open when COVID first hit, she says they didn't qualify for the small business relief programs offered by Hennepin County. So to prevent the restaurant from closing, the Birdhouse launched a GoFundMe page just before Christmas to ask for help.
Not what somebody wants to do is to have to, ask for help or ask for donations. I don't think we ever expected to be in this position. However, we are at a point that it's necessary in order for us to stay open. Hi, are you picking up food?
For now, they'll continue serving takeout orders for the loyal customer base they've amassed in these few short months, with the hope that 2021 has brighter days ahead.
They've shown on social media that they're in for the long haul, and we'd like to help them with that.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your support.
In Robbinsdale, Delane Cleveland, CCX News.
While we await the start of games for winter high school sports on January 14th, we are taking a look back at some of the top local stories from 2020, including a spring season that never happened.
Athletes, like all of us, have tried their best to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. In the early weeks and months of the pandemic here in Minnesota, youth and high school sports were hit especially hard. After initial speculation of a delay to the start of games, the Minnesota State High School League in late April announced the cancellation of the entire spring season. We talked to several high school seniors from the area affected by the postponement and who missed their final season of athletics.
When this all first started, when school was shut down and stuff, I was like, oh no, what about the softball season? And I kept thinking about it, and then I was preparing myself for when it happened and if it did happen.
Getting that text was a little disappointing, to say the least. But once we didn't go back after spring break, I was like, yeah, this isn't happening, I don't think.
I've kind of been looking forward to this ever since I decided to take track seriously after my sophomore year. I was kind of looking forward to the senior year, all my goals. I had them all planned out.
I was hopeful that we would get back, but there was always back in my mind there could be a possibility. But I was lucky enough to have 2 amazing seasons beforehand, so I was expecting the best but prepared for the worst.
It sucks not playing with my friends and my teammates and not being with the coaches too, but we're getting out here as much as we can. It's just keeping a positive attitude.
I think at first it was more of a downing moment where you were expecting a lot of things, a lot of great things senior year, a lot of the special celebrations that you kind of take as granted. But now it's kind of lightened up. I kind of try to use this time to enlighten myself into different things.
I was a little bit shocked. I kind of knew it was coming, but it doesn't really set in until you actually hear the news. And so, it's something you knew was coming, but it's until it hits you, it's like, wow.
This year's high school seniors will certainly see some sort of season as we look ahead to 2021 and a return to the fields of play, a sure sign of a Minnesota spring.
For a time, it looked like there would not be a high school football season this fall due to COVID-19. That changed, and as Jay Wilcox reports, a local school took advantage of the opportunity to play.
The 2020 high school football season was a strange one, to say the least, due to COVID-19. For the Brooklyn Center Centaurs, it was a big step forward. BC was 2-7 in 2019, but in their late starting season this fall, the Centaurs went 5-1, averaging 34 points per game and winning the Twin City Gold Subdistrict.
Yeah, we put a big emphasis in our running game this year and our defense, and so far that's shown up. We were averaging over 300 yards rushing a game, which is beyond what we expected, but we're not mad about that at all. And defensively, we've had 2 consecutive shutouts, and defense are playing at a high level. So,
after a 3-0 start, the Centaurs didn't quite crack the top 10 in the Class 3A state poll, but they did receive votes. People noticed the turnaround.
BC is taken as a school that doesn't really win, you know. We're not one of the best schools, you know. No one really talks about BC like that because we're a little school, so it's great that other schools and other people from out of our city, you know, are talking about us, bringing us up, you know, voting for us is awesome.
It wasn't all smooth sailing. The Centaurs took it on the chin in their only loss, getting shut out by Brack. Even that was viewed as a great learning experience by their coaches. The Centaurs didn't participate in the truncated playoffs due to high COVID numbers in their community. But all in all, it was a season to remember. And for Brooklyn Center, they hope it's a building block for future success. Jay Wilcox, CCX Sports.
Thanks, Jay. For more local sports stories, please visit our website, ccxmedia.org.